My name's Joanne Tod and I'm a Toronto artist. I've been practicing for probably more than 30 years. My work I would consider to be realist-based and largely informed by pop art and contemporary culture and contemporary politics. I have a long interest in the Gardiner Museum, and I often used to visit just because it was a little sanctuary in Toronto with beautiful objects. And more latterly, the lovely renovation that was done by Bruce Kuwabara made it into a really dynamic contemporary exhibition space that has still housed an interesting historic collection. The exhibition is called Invited Invasion, and for this I created various objects on vitreous china, which will be installed within the vitrines along with the original items as a sort of comparison between the historic and the contemporary. This is the first piece I made, and it was inspired by an 18th century German bowl called the Bowl of Nations. So I was thinking about immigration, particularly what has happened recently in North Africa, where there are a lot of refugees coming in droves to the tiny island of Lampedusa. The bowl is decorated with a motif that resembles what we commonly call an immigrant bag, which is a ubiquitous plastic shopping laundry bag that's painted in red, white, and blue. This little Demitasse was inspired by an 18th century soft-faced English cup and saucer from the collection, and I used a motif that's from the CNE in Toronto. So the cup features the wind turbine that's at the foot of the CNE near Lake Ontario on both sides, and the saucer features the Liberty Grand Palace, which is a party palace at the CNE. This cup and saucer was inspired by a cup and a bowl that's in the Gardiner's collection that is faux bois. It's a kind of fake wood grain. And for my faux bois, I've used the floor of one Spadina, which is a little Gothic building where I teach. It's part of the University of Toronto. And that has a grand hallway that has a magnificent parquet floor, so my faux bois is parquet. On the cup, there's a medallion that is actually the window from the painting studio if one were looking out. And on the saucer, there's a depiction of the exterior of one Spadina. Another piece from the Gardiner's collection that I really like is a coffee urn that has a landscape on it. And it doesn't have a border around the landscape as many of the pieces do. So in my interpretation, it is a construction backhoe. I thought that would be sort of similar to in spirit to the original. In addition to the invasion of the ceramic porcelain in the museum, I also have created 3 paintings, all of which will, in some cases, displace the original objects or reside alongside the object. So the first one is Chinese blue and white porcelain. This one's called a Bayou. In fact, my painting is called Blue Bayou, which not only addresses the notion of the object itself, but it also makes a pun on a contemporary popular song, Blue Bayou. I was also inspired by a Sèvres piece in the collection, a ewer basin, and it's a very coral pink color depicting water lilies and a jug that's really quite curvaceous and captivating, striking looking, and very bright color. So this painting essentially depicts the objects in situ and uses a dark green background, which is similar to the felt upon which the original objects are displayed. The third work is called Yellow Displacement, and it will actually displace the mice and objects that are in their own cabinet. So all of the objects will be gone and will be replaced by my painting, which will create a kind of a trompe l'oeil effect. It's partly about going and discovering something new and seeing it arranged along with the original historic object. And I think there's a pleasure associated with that. It's kind of like, oh, you see something, and perhaps it makes the viewer look at the original more carefully, and then to try and figure out why these two objects have been placed together. And there's a kind of a synergy associated with that.